Back to our reading, The Fire Within by Chris DeLacy. The last dragon in the world. A steady drizzle had begun to fall by the time David came back to Liz's garden. He closed the gate with a hasty bang and hurried, teeth chattering, across the patio. As he was passing the kitchen window, a plaintive meowing brought him to a halt. Bonington was sitting on the garden bench, glistening like a fiber-optic Christmas tree. He had his paws tucked neatly under his tummy and raindrops misting the ends of his fur. Beside him lay the rabbit hutch, untouched since the day that Snigger had sprung it. David wandered over and knuckled the cat's ear. "What are you doing sitting here in the rain?" Bonington rose and rubbed his cheek against the corner of the hutch. David, remembering his words by the pond, studied the trap with renewed determination. If Conker could somehow find his way to it, there might yet be a chance to save him. He looked into the kitchen. No sign of Liz or Lucy. "Come on," he whispered softly to Bonington, and he hauled the trap into his shivering arms, took it to the rock garden, and reset the door. While he was checking the acorn trail, he issued the cat some hopeful orders. "I want you to be a guard cat, Bonners. There's a big crow nesting in a sycamore tree. If you see it in the garden, chase it away. Don't hurt it. Just shoo it away, okay?" Bonington, who'd been sitting on a large flat rock, impassively treading his column-like paws, pricked his ears and sat to attention. "Very good," said David. "Very guard-like. Now, let's go and see how Lucy is, shall we?" With that, he led the way back into the house, Bonington trotting along at his heels. As they passed through the kitchen and into the hall, the mail slot rattled and a small white envelope fluttered to the mat. David picked it up. On the front was a picture of an injured fox. On the back were several lines of writing. Scrubbly Wildlife Hospital Appeal. Frankie the fox was hit by a car and left at the roadside with a broken leg. We need your support to continue caring for animals like him. Please give generously. David left it on the hall shelf for Liz. Guessing that Lucy and her mom were in the dragon's den, he started up the stairs to tell them what had happened, next door with Conker. The house was unusually still. There was a strange, almost haunted atmosphere about it, as if everything had somehow frozen in time. David thought about Gawain right then and looked at the door to the pottery studio. It was closed. A sign was hanging from the polished brass knob. "Kilning in progress. Do not enter." Kilning? The word shaped like a question in David's mind, though he knew exactly what it meant. A kiln was a name for a potter's oven. When a dragon was being made, it would be put into an oven for firing. So its clay would harden and its glaze would set. But the last time David had visited this room, he remembered that the only thing missing was an oven. How could Liz be kilning dragons if she didn't have anything to fire them in? Puzzled, he pressed one ear to the door. A faint hurrying echoed through the panels. That noise again. It was everywhere. The tenant stood back, rubbing his lip. There was something very odd going on in this house, and the answer to the mystery lay inside this room. But he couldn't just barge in, unannounced. If Liz was making delicate repairs to Gawain, she'd be furious if he ignored the notice. So he raised a knuckle to knock. just as Bonington, weaving around his feet, yowled loudly enough to rattle the lid off a trash can. "That's Bonnie," said a voice. Liz from the inside of Lucy's room. That meant the den was empty. Temptation pushed David toward the door. Sign or no sign, he was going inside. He quickly let his hand close around the handle and instantly wished he hadn't. The brass was scorching hot. Stifling a yelp of pain, he flipped his hand and twisted away, colliding lightly with the stair post behind him. What on earth is that cat doing? There was a creak of boards, gentle footsteps. David dropped down to the turn in the stairs, dipping his head beneath the level of the landing. He slipped lower as Lucy's door creaked open. "In you come," he heard Liz say. Bonington padded along the landing. "Is David there?" Lucy's voice rang out. David closed his hands in prayer. If Liz looked over the banister now... "Not that I can see," she said, and backtracked into Lucy's room, this time leaving the door ajar. "Oh, I want to know about Conker." "I'm sure David won't let him get hurt," said Liz. "Now into bed, birthday girl. I want you to rest while I look at Gawain." Lucy gave out a sad little sniff. "You can fix him, can't you, Mom? Nothing horrible's going to happen, is it?" David heard a creak of springs and guessed that Liz had settled in the bed. "Lucy, his fire is within you, always. If you love him, how can it ever go out?" Lucy sniffed again and blew her nose. "Tell me the story of his fire, Tear, please." "His what?" thought David, glancing at the dragon in the picture window. Was he dreaming it, or had their ears just pricked up? "Oh, Lucy, you know it inside and out." "It is my birthday, Mom." There was a pause, time enough for David to adjust his position before Liz said, "All right, but just a minute, and only if you promise to go to sleep afterward." "I promise." "All right, then. Close your eyes. You know what to do." "I have to dream back." "Way back," said Liz. "To a time when the special people lived. A time when dragons roamed the earth." David instinctively closed his eyes. Immediately a picture formed in his mind of something akin to prehistoric times. He began to imagine a dust-baked plain littered with rocks and sparse vegetation, a stream winding through rocky outcrops, a world alive with animal calls, the sun beating down from a pale blue sky. Into the picture Liz put a character. In a cave on the side of a hill lives a girl. She has flowing red hair and pale green eyes. "Guinevere," said Lucy. "I dream her, Mom." David nodded. He pictured her easily, barefoot in a shimmering robe. "She is coming to the stream to bathe," said Liz, when, in the distance, a roar is heard from the ice-capped mountains. "Gawain," said Lucy, with a pang in her voice. "Sitting on a higher peak," said Liz. David pictured him surrounded by mist. He saw the hooked claws squeezing deep into the ice, boulder-sized pieces cracking away in the power of the mighty dragon's grip. "He's amazing," said Lucy. "Magnificent," said Liz. "The Lord of the Skies is a wonder of creation, and yet there is room in this noblest of hearts for the faintest glimmer of mortal sorrow. For he, Gawain, is the last of his kind, the very last dragon in the world." "But he's not going to die. Not really," Lucy gabbled. He's got to see Guinevere and... Shush, went Liz, in a soothing voice. Dream it gently. Watch as he spreads his spiky wings and glides in a spiral down toward the caves. They're running, cried Lucy. The people are running. David saw people gathering children, herding them into the shelter of the caves. He has no wish to harm them, said Liz. His thunderous roar is an echo for himself, a reminder of times gone by when many dragons filled these mountains. But yes, the people fear him. His blazing breath sets fire to the rocks. Trees bend to the song of his wings. He settles, and his feet make craters in the earth. I dream it, said Lucy. David gulped. He could almost feel the thud of the dragon's feet rattling every last rib in his chest. But Guinevere does not run away, said Liz. She is there when Gawain bends down to drink. She looks boldly into his violet eyes. A wisp of smoke leaves the dragon's nose. He makes fire in the back of his throat. Hurr. Hurr, went Lucy. Ow, went David, banging his head against the wall as the force of the hurring made him jump. He's mad at her because she isn't scared, said Lucy. A little, said Liz, but curious too. He decides he will test her courage. He threatens to burn her down to the tiniest cinder and blow her to the other side of the world. Guinevere shows no fear. She walks toward Gawain and asks him, "What?" "If she can sing to him," Lucy exclaimed. And suddenly the air was filled with song. Not a song with words or a hummable tune, but a gentle lullaby of growls and trills and warbles and hers. As the song washed over him, David began to feel strangely drowsy. The ice-capped mountains faded from his thoughts. The mighty Gawain put his head down and slept. And then, as quickly as the singing had begun, it ended with the sound of a gentle kiss. "Sleep tight, sweetheart. See you in the morning." The floorboards creaked. Liz, she was coming. David shook himself awake and ducked into hiding. A second or two later, Liz appeared. She scuttled along the landing, Bonington at her heels. "No, you go to David," she said, refusing Bonington entry to the den. David took a chance and raised his head, in time to see Liz reach out for the doorknob. For a moment he thought about shouting and warning, but the words seemed to stick in the back of his throat. It was just as well they did. Liz didn't jump. She didn't even wince. She simply turned the knob once and disappeared inside, greeted by a very gentle "Hurr." We're now on page 176. Moving on to Seeking Gawain.